I've been through the presentation or the work that was done by the IiT, and it's an excellent corrosion study and very informative. And I'll have some introductory comments on the use of galvanized steel in India and in the world, and then we will go on and talk about the research study and the results that Professor Khanna came up with. I've been involved in the zinc and the galvanizing industry for over 30 years, and it happened to coincide with the start of using galvanized steel in automotive, which started in North America and then went to Europe and then went to Japan and Korea. And this is now the use of galvanizing as well as the closure panels is standard operating procedure. All car companies around the world, although with the exception of India, but I think that is changing. And really, it is time to change and for the Indian industry to move up to the world standard. And this will benefit the consumer in giving them a safer and a better quality product that everyone else is benefiting from globally. So where did all this start? I mean, cars at the beginning were made with painted cold-rolled sheet steel, and only relatively recently moved to galvanized steel. And the genesis of this, pardon me, goes back to the 1970s when the U.S. Federal Highway Administration mandated clean, dry roads. And in North America, where we have the winter conditions and we have snow and ice, this was very dangerous and hazardous, and the government decided that had to change. And this led to the use of de-icing salts to melt the snow and the ice and provide the clean roads. But the consequence of this was that the car companies now had a major corrosion problem because painted sheet steel does not stand up to the corrosive environments, especially with de-icing salts. And there was a consumer backlash, and the car companies had to find a solution. And they worked on it, and it wasn't obvious back then what the solution was, but we now know that it was galvanized steel. And we'll see the results of that and the reasons for that in the next few slides. So throughout the 1980s and 90s, there was a wholesale change of going from just painted sheet steel to painted galvanized sheet steel. And this turned out to make all the difference in terms of corrosion performance. And here's just an example. This was a car, a North American car in the 1980s. And at that time, the longevity of a car wasn't a function of its engine or its transmission. It was how long the body panels were going to last. And when you can appreciate that that's not a very efficient or practical solution with the proper corrosion treatment. Corrosion becomes not a non-issue, and the car's longevity is greatly increased, as well as its safety. And this is just a paper that was done by the SAE, is the Society of Automotive Engineers, a big automotive engineering body in the U.S., where they did a survey of cars that were 5 years old, looking at the corrosion rates and the types of damages, and this was used, to develop the corrosion strategies that they went forward with. And this study was also the model of Professor Khanna's work in Chennai and Bombay by looking at cars in the parking lots and evaluating the damage and the corrosion that was happening.